It's 2019! Hi everyone, welcome to Talk and Chalk. I am Beck, I'm an assistant principal in Southwest Sydney, and this is my channel where I share my tips and bits of advice and lots of resources for you to use in the classroom. If you are one of my regular followers, welcome. I hope you had a wonderful festive season, merry, whatever you celebrate or don't celebrate, it's up to you. I hope you've had a wonderful time with friends, family, and the people that you love and care about. If you are one of my new followers, welcome. I'm glad to have you here. I've had a lot of people that have just suddenly stumbled upon the channel through a variety of ways, and other people that have had the channel recommended to them. So please know I don't sell anything, I don't spam, I do not monetize the channel, which means there's no ads on here. I'm not here to financially gain from you guys. I'm here just because this is a good platform for sharing, and to me, sharing is caring. So I will always link things in the description below, and I've got a few things to link this time. So today I'm going to be sharing heaps of resources, some that I've made and some that I've just accumulated through Google or whatever. None of the things that I've ever used are things that I've paid for. Single income, I can't afford to buy things. So these things I know are okay to share with you guys because they're things that I've just Googled and used pictures that are on there. If there's something on here that you are the creator of or something like that and it's not meant to be shared, please contact me. I will take it down. So I will share everything in a Google folder. And I've also got my own links below that include links to my professional Twitter account. So if you want to see the things that I share as an assistant principal, have a look there. It's BeckWest81. I've also got Instagram and the Facebook page as well. And these are things that, like I said, I don't spam you anything. I just share things that I think are beneficial, things that make me laugh, or things that I find useful to use in the classroom or in leadership as well. So today's video is the first video of 2019 after having a few weeks off, and this is going to be part of my back to series videos for this year. So I'm kind of aiming this at people that might be pre-service teachers, new graduates, beginning teachers, early career teachers, whatever you want to call yourselves, and maybe anyone, I guess, that's looking to shake things up in their classroom. Maybe you're looking for a change or just some different ideas. We all know that we continually learn. We're lifelong learners as educators. So there's a very good chance that there might be something here that you want to use, even though that you've got lots of experience yourself. So if you know anyone that might benefit from this, please share, please tag, all the usuals. And if there's anything on here that I talk about or that you see that you can't get access to, please just contact me personally, message me on Facebook or Twitter or whatever, and I will happily share. Not a problem. So I've got my trusty notebook. I can't believe I'm hitting 2019. It's almost halfway. I think you can probably hear my kids playing in the background there. And I'm going to be using this to guide you through sort of the ideas today. And today's topic is behavior management, and there is no way that you could cover behavior management in depth in one of these videos, and they're normally around 20-minute videos. So I don't want to go too long, and I want to be able to do behavior management justice. So I'm going to go into detail about behavior management from the recommendations that people have, sent in for additional needs and things like that. And I've got lots of other topics for this series too. So if you've got any suggestions, please send them through. So what I'm going to try and do though is, I guess, give you a broad snapshot on how you can start off with behavior management in your classroom at the beginning of the year if you are someone who's most likely in the earlier career of teaching. So I've been teaching since 2003. I've got a degree in special needs education, and that had a focus on some particular areas. Behavior management was one of them. So I feel like I've refined my own practices over the years, but I've changed those things throughout the years as well, and you've got to modify as you go. What I say is not the be all and end all. It's not gospel. You take what you think will work for you. You refine it to the way that you like it, and if it works for you, share it with your colleagues as well, because you never know who it could benefit. So getting into this, I have other videos that relate to this. So I've got a video called Why I Don't Say Please, a video called Setting Up Expectations, Class Expectations, I think is what it's called, which was part of my back to school series last year, a year ago, which has another playlist. Another one called End of Year Behaviour, which focuses on like end of term 4, but I mean, that could prep you for each end of term behaviour. And another one called Dealing with Pesty Kids, which is more about resilience and confidence and perseverance. So I have resources to share with that one though within this video. So if you want to watch those on as well in collaboration with this video, that might enhance, I guess, what you're working towards at the start of the year. So there's a few different things in terms of behaviour management. First thing is obviously setting up your expectations in the classroom. So this could be setting up your class rules or your guidelines. And it doesn't really matter what language you use. I know a lot of people don't like the word rules because it seems kind of negative and harsh, but it depends on the values and the ethos of your school and your community. If your community uses that language and that's what they like and that's what they reaffirm at home, then it might be useful to use that in your classroom and start working towards other language like guidelines or expectations. You can't just go in hard and fast and try and change a culture straight away, especially if that's what the go is. And that doesn't mean that you have to stick with that forever, but you know what? If you want to build that relationship with your kids and your parents, stick with the values and the ethos of that school and community first before you try to make any kind of changes. The most important thing though is just that you are explicit and clear. Regardless of whether you say they're rules, expectations or guidelines, those things need to be explicit and clear, very clear. Don't use tokenistic or educational jargon that your parents aren't going to understand, that your kids aren't going to understand. So I personally prefer using the school rules as my class rules because it keeps consistency. So in my classroom, I'm using that same language as I would in the playground. I'm using the same language as I would in the classroom next door, whether it's kindergarten to year 6, whether it's the RFF teacher, community languages teacher, it doesn't matter. It's all consistent and clear and it stays the same, which means that it's easier for my kids to achieve. So at our school, I've been at 3 schools now where we've gone through the language of the school rules and made those changes. And each time it happened, it was shortened and made broader. I'm not sure if that makes sense. So we reduced the amount of rules. So one school I was at, there were that many rules. So there were like 10 school rules, but under each rule, there were like 5 more dot points. So essentially there were 50 rules that you had to follow. There's no way kids are going to remember every single rule. And because they were so explicit, it meant that it made it easier to break rules without technically breaking rules. So for example, it would list things like, I'm trying to remember now, like classroom behaviour, put up your hand to speak. No, was it don'ts? Either way, it had certain things listed and then a kid would do something and say, but it's not on that list. That means that I can do it. So if you start making things really explicit and then miss other things out, you open yourself up to issues and people trying to sort of manipulate the system. Whereas if you make them broad, I can tweak my language to make sure it covers everything. So the current school that I'm at, we have 3 school rules. 3 school rules with kind of a couple of examples underneath it. So I'm in holiday mode, so if I get this wrong, I get this wrong. Be safe, be respectful or responsible, and be engaged. That's it. So I can literally say that whatever you're doing is breaking our school rule. You're standing on a chair, that's not being safe. You're outside when you're meant to be inside, that's not being safe. You're not following our school rule of being safe. You're walking in the corridor when it's out of bounds, that's not being safe. I can turn that around as well for being respectful or responsible. Which one? I'm going to say respectful. So you're not being respectful. You're walking around the school halls when you're meant to be in the classroom. That's not very respectful to your teacher and their instructions that they gave you. You're standing on that chair. That's not very respectful to your teacher that asked you to sit on your chair. So I can say any of those things is not being safe, not being respectful, and not being engaged, which means that I limit that chance of arguments about, what that means. This does come down to, though, explicit teaching of what those school rules mean at the beginning of the year, every time. Even though your kids are in year 6 and they've heard those rules before, do it again. You've got new kids, it's always good to have that reaffirmation. So when you're going through those things as well, get the kids to articulate what that means to you. This isn't about me dictating to the kids what our school rules mean. It's about, here's what the rule is. What do you think that means? What does it look like to you? What does it sound like to you? What does it feel like to you? and really gauge that and get examples from them. Get drawings, get sentences, get examples, stick them up around the classroom, draw their attention back to it. You said that this meant not being safe. That means you're not being safe at the moment because look, you've got it right there, stuck on the wall. I'm just looking at my notes, sorry. So having your own class rules can be beneficial because you can get very specific. You might have kids that need to see, put your hand up to speak or something like that on there. So I'm not saying you shouldn't have them. It's just my personal preference. I like to keep it that way. So you might need very specific guidelines, especially if you've got kids with high behavior needs. You might need that in your classroom. So that's obviously, that comes down to you knowing your kids and what they need. I think the whole idea, though, of going in and saying, here's your guidelines straight away, isn't necessarily going to be beneficial because it means you're dictating it to them. It's always good to get kids involved in this process and get their language and their understanding before you go about putting it into action and dishing out rewards or consequences against those things, because if it's not explicit, then they don't know what's expected of them. It's good to use the language that goes with it as well. So use that language, I expect. I expect that. You are expected to. By the end of this activity, the expectation is blah. Be very specific about that. And then they know what they need to do. It's achievable for every single kid in the classroom, because sometimes we can be a bit airy-fairy about those things. Oh, but I wanted you to do blah. Not I expected you to do blah. That's my personal hope for something. So be very, very clear about it. And focus on the expectation rather than what not to do. So we're avoiding that negative language that, makes it scary or could develop anxiousness or just makes kids, really defiant about being part of that process. So instead of saying don't call out, focus on the positive. You need to raise your hand to speak. Demonstrate exactly what it is you want them to do as opposed to what it is you don't want them to do. Just makes it more achievable. And like I said, don't go overboard. I think when it comes to those class rules and guidelines, less is more, pretty much. It's not a case of the more the merrier when it comes to those things. So it just becomes cumbersome and hard for the kids to achieve. So following on from setting up your rules, your expectations, your guidelines, you need a system that complements it in terms of your rewards and your consequences. These things can be whole class, group, or individual based. And a simple Google search will just bombard you with ideas that are out there. If you go to Teachers Pay Teachers, there's a ton for sale, plenty for free as well. Google websites, there's a lot out there available. Google on Twitter, you'll see pictures of people, sharing what their resources are and what their strategies are. I think I did a live chat on reward systems as well. So if I remember, I'll link that in the bottom as well. So there's lots of ideas out there. So I'm not going to list what I think, are the best systems, because the best system is what works for you and your kids. What I will do, though, is shortly I'll go through some of the systems that I have used. But you need to get out of your head that there's one best system and that's what you're going to use, because you're going to change what you like. The kids are going to be different each year. And really you need to evolve as time goes on as well. And those kids that come through, they'll respond to different things. So if you have something sort of theme-wise, that's going to change from year to year. So the most important thing you need to consider, though, about creating a system or using a system that you're just taking from elsewhere is just how much time that system is going to impact on you. So it might impact on your class time to implement, and I'm talking the daily implementation of this, weekly rewards or systems that you've got, that might accumulate. How much time is that going to actually impact on your classroom time? If it requires a great deal of preparation beforehand, are you spending weekends laminating, cutting, buying, sorting, whatever to enhance your system or to implement your system? Does it require a financial contribution? If you're doing things like prize boxes or specific rewards at the end of the week or the month or whatever, is this going to eat into your personal finances, and how much are you willing to let that eat into your personal finances? And ultimately, is it actually helping students, work responsibly on their behavior and their learning? Is it actually working, or are you just doing it for the sake of doing it? What evidence do you have to show of this? Ideally, you want your students to grow from this system, and you want to be able to move from extrinsic motivation to intrinsic motivation. And this is something that takes a long time. It may not happen in that 1 year, but whatever stepping stones you put in place will continue with the next teacher. Our focus is always from extrinsic to intrinsic. I know there's a lot of people out there that say that no one needs extrinsic motivation. We're all intrinsic and we're all, capable of doing that. But sorry, not in my experience. Some kids do. I'm intrinsically motivated, but do you know what? I like my paycheck. I like being recognized when I've done something good as well. It's lovely to have that kind of a thing. I don't work, just for those things, but it's nice to have those things. And there are kids out there that they come to school without any intrinsic motivation because it's just not the household they've come from. That's not what they've learnt. So it's our job to support those kids. And if support means giving them some of those extrinsic motivators to get them to that point, the same way I would with writing, if I have a template or a scaffold, I'm going to do it. If that's what works for that kid, I'm going to move them along. I'm not going to keep dishing them extrinsic over and over and over again until they go into high school. It's not going to help them. My key focus would be to move them along how they need it. Moving on to my next page because I got through all of that. So let's go through some of the examples that I've used since I started teaching. So I've done the whole stamp chart, sticker chart thing where you get a certain amount of stamps or stickers and you get an award or a reward or a prize box or whatever. Now my prize box is always cheap ass stuff. I'm talking gel pens, and not that the kid would get a pack of gel pens. I mean, I bought a pack and there's 20 of them in there and they get to pick one. Packs of rubbers and stickers and stamps and temporary tattoos, little bouncy balls, little yo-yos, glow sticks, that sort of a thing. Things that I can buy in bulk, and I usually buy them in the party section. So if you go to the Reject Shop, Big W, Kmart, the Party Warehouse, I've got little sunglasses and things like that. Things that come in bulk, packets of 6 or 12 or whatever. And I'll spend a bit and I'll chuck them in and I keep the receipt for tax time. That's something that I use. I still use. I've still got a prize box now. So even though I'm off class, I still have kids sent to me for a reward or whatever. And, I can get something out of the prize box and let them have a pick. And, if they've done something wonderful, hey, pick 2 things out of the box. 2 whole gel pens. The first main system I used in the mainstream setting was Turner dollars. Turner was my maiden name, and it had a picture of me in the middle, and I made them in the same color as Australian money. If you are not in Australia, our money is very colorful and it's plastic. Like it can go through the wash and still come out fine. So I had the paper matched the colors that were, so like 20 is a red note for us, so I used red paper. So it was a picture of me in the middle. It said Turner dollars. It had the dollar amount and just like a rectangle around it, and I cut it out and laminated it, and I had a ton of these in my drawer. And the kids had little envelopes in the room with their name on it, and depending on what they did that was wonderful, I'd give them Turner dollars, $5, $10, $20, $50. And then at the end of every week I had a shop, and the shop was only open before recess on a Friday, where they could buy things from the shop. And it didn't take them very long to figure out they could pull their money together and buy something together. So the shop were more laminated cards that said 20 minutes of computer time, 20 minutes of free play, borrowing a piece of equipment. And when I say equipment, I mean like a tennis ball or a skipping rope or whatever. They could borrow that at lunchtime. They had to give me back the card when they wanted to redeem it, and there were certain times they could redeem it. They couldn't just go, hey, it's maths time, I want to use my computer card now. There were certain times they were allowed to use it. And then when they did that, I just collect the card back, put it back in the shop, which was a cardboard cutout with little envelopes on it, and I put the little things in there, and they could buy from the shop. And I think it worked well. It was like an individual reward, but I could give it out in groups. This group was great at reading today. You guys all get $5. So I think that worked well, especially considering it was early part of my career and it could have gone pretty bad. No, I think I only had one issue where a kid stole money and they fessed up to it and handed it back, and there was a consequence for it. Different schools, different things, but that again comes down to your behavior management. I've also used table points. Table points is so easy. So if you've got your groups of tables, and this was before I did flexible learning and they all had their allocated seats, they all had themes for their tables. Sometimes you let them choose what their name is. Sometimes I chose. One year I had this big superhero theme going in the classroom, so there was a Superman table, a Wonder Woman table. This was before DC and Marvel got hot. You know, just chalk on the chalkboard with their name on it, nothing big, and I would just add 5 points, 10 points, 20 points, and it was things like, which group is ready first? Okay, which group has done their activity? That's great teamwork over there. Points, 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 and at the end of the week, whoever's got the most table points wins something. Usually it was something from the prize box. These work very good with the younger kids, can work well with the older kids if they've got the right motivation, depending on the cohort that you've got. I've used the traffic light system with a reward attached to it. So the traffic light system is often used for warnings and consequences, but I like to add an extra part to the traffic light there so that there's the incentive to work towards something, as opposed to everyone starts on green, yay, you know, you only get to move if you're in trouble. I liked the other option of having something else to work towards. So I had the extra bit there that could be a reward, and it could be points for your table, could have been money, it could have been your sticker or your stamp or whatever system I was using in place at the time, and you know, that works towards those rewards. Another thing I used was the West winning wall, and I recently put a picture of this up on my social media, and it went nuts because everyone loved it, and I have searched so hard to find my original digital copy of this, and I'm ready to cry because I can't find it anywhere in my files. I don't know. I don't understand, because I've been doing everything digitally since like 2012. Well, earlier than that I've been doing it digitally because I've been doing it on the computer, but I guess I lost. I don't know. I'm so baffled about this one. But I'll share a picture now. This is what it looks like. So the idea being that there's little footprints there that have got blue tack on them. So it starts without any footprints. And when the kids went outside for playtime, this was specific to this particular class that was having issues on the playground. They're doing well in the classroom, going out into the playground and having issues on the playground. They weren't extending their good choices onto the playground. So that particular school I was at, we had warning cards, and if a warning card was given out to someone in my class on that day, then they would not get a foot. If no one got a warning card, they would get a foot, and it would take 6 feet to climb to the top. And the first one, I think, was ice cream, and then the next one was like an indoor game, and then the next one, the one was cooking and everything. Eventually it led up to the main one, which was a movie with popcorn and pillows in the classroom. That was what they were working towards. So it took, I think there were 6 different colors, 6 times 6, 36 feet. So that's recess and lunch. So 36 play sessions to get to the movie. So we achieved the movie, I think, in one term. It was after implementing it, and then it got to the point where they achieved, you know, almost through 1.5 times the wall the next time, and it just got more and more and more to the point where it was quite regular. There weren't any problems on the playground, and those are achievable rewards in terms of me as a teacher providing it. I can go get them a cheap ice block. I can play an indoor game with them. I can take them out for an outdoor game. I can get, you know, $10 worth of popcorn and pop some popcorn for a movie. That's not cumbersome for me as the teacher to be able to provide that, but it gave them incentive, and it was something they really enjoyed doing. So I'll see if I can add the photo of it to the Google Drive so that you guys can have a look and maybe create something similar of your own. It took some time to cut out all the feet and laminate them and everything, but once it was done, it was done. It's a recess that I can keep using. Now the next one is the main system that I like to use. It's called Class Dojo. Now I am a Class Dojo ambassador. I want to make sure I'm open to you guys about that, but there is a reason I'm an ambassador, and it's because I love it. I was introduced to it in 2012, and it's had a lot of changes since 2012. So if you looked at it back then and you thought it wasn't for you, you might want to have another look at it now, because it has changed a lot over the years. So Class Dojo is a points-based system. The kids get a little avatar on the screen, and you can change the avatars as well to something you want. So I've had, you know, minions before, and I've put little Christmas ones up there at Christmas time and Halloween ones there, and just made it sort of thematic as well. Put their name up, and they have points. It you've got the option of deciding how much points something gets. So I put in categories. So something for your home reader, something for teamwork, something for personal best point is always something that I put. I usually put something that's really trippy, weird, out there that's me. So it used to be a Mrs. West point or a awesome point. And you can attribute something to that. So like home reading might be worth 5 points, whereas teamwork might only be worth 3 or something like that. You choose depending on your class needs, obviously. It does have the option of taking points away. I do not use it. Flat out, that's a rule for me. I do not take away a reward. My consequence systems are completely separate to my reward systems. Now, a lot of people say, no, but it should be the same. Kids need to learn. You know, we go to work and we earn money and we get fined money as well. But those are completely different things. If I make a mistake on my job, I don't get fined. There's other systems in place. I get fined for speeding down the road. The reward I have for not speeding down the road is I get to keep the points on my license. So me, personally, this is what I prefer. And I found it to be successful because I don't want my kids attributing that point system that's sitting on the board as them having done something wrong, or looking at it and going, there's no point trying hard because I'm just going to lose a point anyway. That needs to be a success point, and it's up to me to make sure my kids can achieve it. If my kids are not achieving points, it's not necessarily about their behavior. It could be about me not finding a way to show them that what they're doing is the right thing at the right time in a particular context, because we all do it in a different way. Different personalities, different styles, different needs. I've got to scaffold that for my kids. Now, the big contention that a lot of people had with Class Dojo is that it didn't have the portfolio section for students, which it now does. So it's student portfolios, I think it's called. So there's options on there to have class story, which is kind of like a Facebook news feed. So the only people that can see this are the parents that you invite. You give them a special code, they have to log on, sign up and put in the password, and only they can see it. And I only put pictures in there of kids that have permission to publish. So at our school, the permission to publish note specifically says Class Dojo as an example of a place that photos could be published. So if I have a kid in my class who doesn't have permission to publish, I don't send them the photo on there. You do have the option though of privately messaging the parents. So if I do snap a photo of a child that's doing a wonderful thing and I want to share it with that parent, I can safely share it privately with that parent so they can still see it, but it's not open to the rest of the parents to see. And I just share things. I share reminders on there. Don't forget to bring in this note, excursion tomorrow. Don't forget to bring your hat. Open classrooms tomorrow, and I'll share wonderful things that we're doing at school as well and learning. And then now you have the student portfolios, and I haven't had a chance to actually utilize that part because I've been off class. So I'm really excited about the stuff that I've seen shared by other teachers. I think it looks really, really good. So it's just a really good platform for communication. It generates reports based on the points and stuff that you give out. So if you need to track a kid that's, you know, brought in their home reader, you can track attendance and everything on there as well. It creates those reports for you too. So I mean, it's good data if you want to track some of that information, especially in terms of, you know, behavior. If there's one particular area a student is not achieving, is that because you're not dishing out the points, or is it because they're not achieving it? I just really love Dojo. I'm going to do a more specific video on Dojo down the track, probably after the holidays, to just show you a bit more information about it. But if you YouTube Class Dojo, go to the website. There's lots of videos on there that show you how it works. Heaps of free resources, heaps. And there is a Facebook page for Class Dojo, both in Australia and in America as well, where teachers share all of the things that they create too. So moving into the not so fun part, this is the consequence system. So you can't just be dishing out rewards left, right and center. You're going to have one of those days where you need to dish out a consequence. Now, I firmly believe in always adhering to the school systems and policies that you have above all else, before all else. You need to follow that strictly. Again, maintain consistency, respect the systems that are in place in your school. If they need an overhaul, talk to your executive and say, look, I'm really keen on updating this. Can we talk about it? It's just better to keep consistency in those settings, and that helps your RFF teachers, your ComLang teachers. It helps casual teachers, everyone else. If you can keep those systems really rigid and in place, you'll just be more successful. So the bare basics for me that I have found Most consistent and effective is going with a verbal warning or a reminder. I know a teacher that used the word reminder, and I kind of like that better than warning, actually, because warning kind of says, it sounds very negative and very harsh, and I suppose could make some kids quite anxious, whereas if you say reminder, it's just a reminder that's not what you're meant to be doing. I guess it's a bit more neutral language, so I need to train myself to say that because I've gone so many years now with saying warning. Putting the student, the next step, if they continue, is putting their name on the board or in your book or in a place that you recognize. So you might have a peg somewhere and you just move that name. Something that shows you're on the next step. Then after that is time out in the classroom. So to me, that means moving to a different spot, removing you from the scenario that you're in, the people that might be, influencing you or aggravating you, whatever. And they continue, time out in another class. And I recommend usually with your supervisor, but that's not always the way it works, with another teacher that's completely different. And that teacher will have a certain spot or anything with them. And that does not mean to go to another teacher and get roused on. That does not mean send them out to get yelled at by the next teacher, because if that's what you set up, they're going to run away instead of going into that other classroom. The idea of the timeout is to have a break, not to go and get roused on. The idea is, remove them from that spot, give them that calm down time, let them reflect, and let them come back with a fresh start. It's not about dishing out, a consequence just because of that. Sometimes we just need a break. Even as adults, sometimes we just need a break. If they continue to misbehave in that other classroom, that's when you would call for executive or your supervisor support. And there should be something in place in your school that says what the next step would be. So if there are students that are consistently reaching that danger zone, like constantly in timeout in the next class, constantly needing supervisor support, that's when you need to seek support from your learning support team. Talk to your counsellor, talk to your executive. Never, ever, ever be afraid to ask for help. Never. It's very frustrating as a supervisor and executive to find out after 6 months that someone in my team has been trying to deal with this problem with a student on their own and not gaining any movement. We talk about kids in terms of academics, and we give them between 5 and 8 weeks to show us what they can't do, what they need to work on, and put strategies in place. And if something doesn't work, they then refer to the learning support team. Same thing with your kids with behaviour concerns. Don't let it fester. Do not be afraid to ask for help, because chances are someone in that team is going to be able to go, I had him 3 years ago and he did the same thing. He hasn't done it for a while. Mum might be back out of jail or something. Those little things that come up. Just have the conversation. No one is going to judge you or think less of you as a teacher. We've all been there. All of us have been there at some point. So those kids likely will need an independent behaviour program and perhaps a different behaviour monitoring system, and I've got some examples of that too. That's a whole other video though, but I will show you examples. You always need to follow through as well. You can't tell those kids, right, you've had your name up and you've been at timeout, your next step is going to the timeout in the next class. Johnny, you will go to that timeout in the other classroom. Johnny, I'm serious, you will go to that other classroom. You're not going to the other classroom. Don't give it, no, go. The next step is blah, right? You went to the next step, go. Go, go. Don't keep giving chances again and again and again and again like that. The verbal reminder is their chance. If you have set up your expectations, your rules, your guidelines very, very clearly, and you've given them that verbal reminder about what they're doing and why they're not meeting that expectation, that's the chance. Otherwise, you will drown. I think it's important to keep records of this as well. So I've got examples for that too. I'll get to that in a minute. At the moment, we use an electronic system where we record all this stuff, but I've got some Word documents too where you do that. And when I first started teaching, I just had a book that had the date, the behaviour, the consequence, and if anything moved on from that. So I had this is just me handwritten notes keeping that. So if a parent came in, I could go, well, they got sent to timeout on this day, and this day, and this day, and these were the reasons for it. Because it won't always happen, but you might get to the point where a parent will come in accusing of something. That evidence will back you up. If it gets to the point where you need to refer to the learning support team and the counsellor needs to do assessment, that's data, that's evidence. for the counsellor to be able to take things into account, because you as a teacher, as wonderful and committed as we are, we're not going to remember every single detail. We're not going to remember all the dates, because it's important that, you know, that detail is there for the people that are investigating what's going on. So did it only ever happen on a Monday? That kind of a thing. Is it only ever happening during maths lessons? Is it after Johnny's been off for a day, or at Dad's for the weekend, or something like that? I keep using Johnny. I have no Johnny. It's the standard name to go to. So as time consuming as it might be, it's very important to document. So some consequence systems that I've used before has been the whole school system, which could have involved, like I said, the red, the orange cards, point systems for kids, and they had to have a certain amount of points to get to the rewards day. I've been at schools that run detentions, you know, missing activities, you know, missing out on excursions or whatever, depending on the behaviour, obviously. And this isn't about exclusion, it's about safety, pretty much. Being on pickup duty, like picking rubbish up out on the field. But the majority of the time, you won't find that consequences work as well as the rewards. Focusing on the positive will always lead to better long-term results than, you know, just jumping onto those negatives. So for me, I think the best rewards for kids come down to those everyday interactions that you have with them. So things like a high five, a wink, a fist bump for them can, and having that honest relationship with positive feedback with the kids, being very specific about what it is that they're doing that is appropriate and following the school values. And it's not about doing what I want you to do, it's about doing what is good for you as a learner, as a person, as a member of the school community. And building that relationship is key. So, and that's not just for the students, that's with the parents as well, because whether you're dishing out rewards or consequences, you need to be communicating with the parents, and parents are going to want to know what's going on with their kids in the classroom. I'm a parent too. I'm fairly sure my kids are well behaved, but I don't know the details. I don't know if they've been in trouble during the day and had time out, because I'm pretty sure she wouldn't come home and tell me, or he, either one of my kids that are school age. But when kids know that you're there for them, there's a greater chance of success and a greater chance that they're going to adhere to those expectations, or at least respond when you're giving them that verbal reminder that they're not living up to that. And just be open and honest with the kids as well about the fact that they are a wonderful person. It's just that specific behaviour that's not appropriate. You know, you are not a bad person. That behaviour is not acceptable though. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to flip the camera around, and I'm going to show you all the resources that I'm going to share with you guys in the Google folder. So this is the folder I will share with you guys. As soon as you go into it, you'll see there's another little folder in there, which is support visuals, and it's just a Word document of some other ones that I compiled together. So I really like this, How Big Is My Problem? It's just a reminder to those kids that maybe get a bit extra upset about something, you know, what's actually a big problem, what's a little problem, you know, what kind of behaviors are appropriate to use, what does on task and off task look like. Oh, that's the one that's just turned on its side. What does being active look like? And there's just examples. This is a think about it sheet, so it's like a reflection sheet. If the kids are sent to timeout, they could fill that in. I love this traffic light. Just that stop, calm down and breathe deeply, consider everyone else's feelings, you know, think about it and make a choice. That's a good prompt to have in the classroom as well. So yeah, a lot of these are just prompts. So going into this, I've got a bullying chart that describes what it is. This is another reflection sheet. There's the How Big Is My Problem? How big is my problem? There's a variety of ones there. I can't remember what this one is. Let's have a look. Oh, Are You Ready for Learning? So this is kind of like your 6 L's, and if you don't know what the 6 L's are, it's the behaviors. So are your legs crossed? Are your lips closed? Are your eyes looking? Ears listening? Are you ready to learn? And oh my gosh, what was the other one? Hands in laps. So another reflection sheet. You know, this one is for more of a younger kid. This one's for more of an older kid. I think this is a checklist. Oh, here we go. So that's a checklist. Like I said, this isn't one I haven't made. This is just an example for you guys. Another behavior chart. I love this. This is the catastrophe scale. How bad's that? So it starts at the bottom with little things like, oh no, I dropped my banana, my ice cream. Oh no, I have a pimple. It's a bit bad, but it's not that bad. Moving all the way up to, you know, car accident, house burning down, volcanic eruption. You know, that's really bad. You know, dropping my ice cream is not the same as having a car crash. That's worse, and just helps those kids, you know, keep perspective. Absence of sheets there. So a think sheet, some more reflection sheets. Now I've got an example here of a behavior monitoring sheet. So this is an example of what it would be like if you had a student who was consistently doing the wrong thing all the time, and if it was the same kind of behaviors. So when I notice it's the same behaviors, like not following instructions, work avoidance, absolute work refusal, damaging property, leaving the classroom, so that's absconding. So I had Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. This was to keep records. This is very helpful if you have to go down the suspension path, because you need evidence to say that it's repetitive, defiant behaviour, and that student needs a behaviour plan put in place, and therefore you need a suspension to allow the student time at home so the teacher can work on a behaviour plan. So that's why those things are there. Okay, so that's there as a Word document, so you can edit that if you want to. This is a behaviour recording sheet for when I had to move names to the yellow or red. So this was when I had the traffic light system. So all I would do is write the names of the kids that went to yellow on Monday, and the ones that went to red on the Monday. And if they went to both, then their name would go in both. So this allowed me to see over 3 weeks here if there was one particular student always getting yellow. Because sometimes those kids fly under the radar. They're the ones that just constantly get the warnings and then remember to pull themselves in. So they might just need something else. There might be something else going on there. And this also helps you determine, you know, how often those kids are going onto the red, because sometimes at the end of the week, you might feel like, oh my God, Johnny's just done my head in. I think he's been on timeout every single day this week. Look at your sheet. Has he? Or was it just Thursday and Friday that he really gave you the shits and it's done your head in? And this is a good way to track it. It doesn't need detail or anything, just name. That was when they did it. I would keep my detail in the other book. That was another behavior recording sheet. This is a calm down brain break set of activities, and I would just have these around for those kids that, you know, had anxiousness or needed some activities around. Good for partners to do. Now, when I had year 2, instead of having the traffic light system, I used the characters from Inside Out. So, you know, that was my red. The blue was like, well, she was sad, obviously. So this was kind of where everyone started, even though it's discussed, she looks happy in that. And joy was like my up point. So everyone started on green. If you ended up with your name up on joy, then you got one of the class dojo points. This was kind of like your warning, and then that was pretty much a class timeout. And I just had their names on pegs and moved them up. What else have we got here? So more reflections. This is an effort meter. This was really good for kids to kind of get the idea about putting in their best effort, and you're just using that language. So this is a blank one, and I got the kids to look at this one and colour it in just to get the idea of what those steps mean. So some effort, I completed the task, but I may have rushed it. It's okay, but I think of many things to make it better. It's a great effort. I think I can do one thing to make it better. And I just have one big A3 one of those in the classroom. Okay, I've got some of the faces on there as well. That's another chart, like a meter of how big is my problem. This is an example of a behavior monitoring sheet if you need one a bit more specific. So I've removed the names from these, but you can see the kids had different goals. So this particular child, their goals were keep my hands and feet to myself, put my hand up to speak, follow teacher's instructions, and try work on my own. So if they did that, they got the smiley face. It didn't matter if there was, you know, something else that they didn't do, like if they didn't complete their work, that doesn't matter. That doesn't prevent them from getting a smiley face. As long as he tried his work on his own, he got the smiley face. So this was the morning session, the second part of the morning session, because that's, you know, 2 hours long. So it's broken up into 2 parts, the middle session and the afternoon. And if they got 8 smiley faces, it didn't have to be in a row, just 8 smiley faces was a dojo point, and 20 smiley faces was a pick from the prize box. 20 smiley faces would be the whole week. This next student had different goals. So I will put my hand up to speak. I will avoid making extra noises. I'll follow teacher's instructions and put my glasses on to work. So as long as they did that in these sessions, you get the smiley face. This one was put my hand up to speak, follow teacher's instructions, not to touch other people's belongings, speak politely, and show respect to teacher and students. So this was obviously targeting very specific needs with those students. This should be a Word document, so you can edit that. And moving along, this is my out of classroom log. So those kids, you know, constantly using the toilet all the time or wanting a drink, just going to record that and see how often they're actually doing that. There's no consequence or anything like that. There could be kids going out for reading or whatever, which is also good if you've got, you know, WHS or fire emergency sort of evacuations and you need to know where kids are. That's handy. This one worked well as well with some of the younger kids. So my name is, and you can edit it there, and just the amount of stars you get. So non-specific. I just want to dish out some extra awards to this kid, have it on the table so they can see it. And so this is some examples of other awards that you can hand out that won't cost you anything. The stinky feet pass means you can take your shoes off, sit by a friend, sitting in the rolly chair, laying on the carpet. There's a Dojo one, changing your avatar, extra teacher helper. I didn't make this, I got this online somewhere. So there's just some other random ones there that you can use too. And then there's the traffic light system there as well. So I hope this has been helpful for you all. I know that's a lot of information to take in, and like I said, there's no way you could cover all of behaviour management in one video, so I will try and go into more detail as sort of requests come in. Keep an eye out for the next videos that are going to come out. I'm going to Queensland for a week, so I'm going to try and video as much as I can and share them probably all in one go. Definitely accreditation, definitely programming are in there. Setting up a classroom for the very first time is going to be part of that too. So I'm going to dig into resources and make those videos for you guys. So I will leave it there though. Remember, in the description is all the other links to those other videos that I suggested. Give this video a thumbs up if you think it was beneficial. If you're still here at the end, I very much appreciate it. What I'm going to do is leave it there. If you haven't subscribed yet, I'm going to put my button down the bottom here. You just hover over that, click to subscribe. I'll put another video at the top there, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thanks guys. Bye.